Hey guys, I've got 11 minutes before I have to go leave to pick up my son from middle school, but I wanted to hop on real quick because I was thinking about you. And I was thinking about back in the day when I first started my online business and what that felt like for me. And I wanted to talk to you today about one of the things I struggled with quite a bit back then that I've learned some techniques for working through. And that's how to not get overwhelmed when you're first starting an online business. Now, I share this not to say because I've reached some magical peak where you never get overwhelmed again, right? Like if you've been following along on this crazy journey the last few weeks. I had a house flood, they found asbestos in my walls, my kids got COVID. It's just like been this crazy whirlwind of a few weeks. And I still get moments where I feel overwhelmed. But there's some strategies and some tips that I've learned along the way that I wanted to share with you because nobody shared this with me when I was first getting started. And honestly, there were times where I truly felt like, am I the only one that feels this way? Like, how does everybody else magically get it done? So the first is, for me, I tell this to myself all the time, even still today. Like when I am starting something new, I still feel scared. I can still feel overwhelmed. Like doing something new can feel scary. And so I tell myself, Natalie, put blinders on. Don't start looking at all the other people out there doing something similar because you're going to start to get in your head and play the comparison game. And then number two was, and this is a phrase I picked up from somebody somewhere, and they said, when you embrace the fact that you're always going to suck at the beginning, everything else gets a lot easier. And I live by that mantra because I've talked about this in other videos, but we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Like we want to be perfect the first time right out of the gate. And the truth is it's never perfect the first time out of the gate. So I put blinders on, accept the fact that it's not going to be my best. And then it can always be improved later. Even today, for example, I was like, man, I really want to talk to you guys about this, but I got to do my hair. I got to put my makeup on. And finally, I was just like, Natalie, you just got to show up. And that's the second thing that I wanted to share with you guys is simply just putting in the work is going to do two things. One, you're going to get better by default the more that you practice, the more that you do things. But two, for me, it gives me that sense of momentum where I actually got something done, even if it was teeny, tiny, tiny baby steps. And I say, you know what, it might not be perfect, but I'm just going to take that next step. I'm just going to create the next thing. I'm just going to, whatever it is that's on your list that you need to do. Now, the third thing that I want to talk about is I think sometimes we think, oh, there must be people that have it all figured out and they know how to balance everything. I think that balance is a myth. I'm serious. And the way that I think about it is you're never going to have everything all together perfectly in harmony, working all your pieces at the same time. You're not. And if you look at nature isn't perfectly balanced all the time, right? So we have different seasons. If you think about like an orchestra, orchestras are awesome and the music is beautiful, but it's because it comes in and maybe you have the flutes that are really, really quiet. And then you have your woodwind instruments and then you have your loud drums, and it all works together because at some points, some are a little bit louder and some are quieter. And I kind of think about that in our lives, right? Like if in an orchestra, if every single instrument were to play as loud as possible all the time, nobody would pay to go to the orchestra, right? You'd be like, that's super loud and get that out of here. I don't want to hear that. Some people, not everybody, but I like going to orchestras because it's like, it's beautiful and it all works together. And I think about that in our lives too, right? It's like, there might be times in your life where you're starting a new online business. And so your business are like the drums that are really loud at that point in the song, right? And maybe making a homemade meal every single night is the flute instruments and they need to be a little bit quieter. And then you have other times in your life where, okay, the business is working on autopilot. Now I can focus more on making healthy meals. And so what I try to do is one, remind myself of that, because I think when we put that pressure on ourselves to do everything perfectly all the time, yeah, could you do each individual thing on its own? Probably, possibly, but trying to do them all, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So for me, I might say, okay, I'm giving myself permission to use paper plates for a while so we don't have to do dishes. Or I actually just recently did this. I set up a subscription for, something like HelloFresh or Blue Apron or something like that. So I don't have to think about meal prep and go to the store and buy the groceries. We just can make it all together. Or I might do things like give myself permission to do something without I can't even believe I'm admitting this on camera. This is literally makeup from 3 days ago that I have showered. I've just not washed my face. And I'm like, in my head, this is embarrassing. But I think like, I could wash my face and redo my makeup, or I could save that 10 minutes and just wear it a second day. And I'll like try to go as long as possible. It's probably why I'm giving myself premature wrinkles, but give yourself permission to like show yourself some grace and say, all right, I'm focusing on this thing right now. And that's what I'm going to put a lot of time and energy into. And it's okay for some of these other things to be quieter. Now, the other thing that I really focus on a lot is, especially if your brain thinks like mine, it's really easy. I say I have like ultimate shiny object syndrome. Have you ever been guilty of this in the past? I totally have, where I get really excited and I get like 70% of the thing done. And then I like get distracted and I hop over to this. So then what ends up happening is I just have a lot of things that aren't all the way done. And then I feel overwhelmed. One way to avoid that is to like literally just tell yourself, I'm going to finish this one thing. Now, a system that works for me, and this is not a fancy system, but it works for me, is I use Post-it notes. And so if I know there's something I need to do and I need to get done, I'll write that one thing on a Post-it note and I stick them around my computer screen. So that way I remember. And also it's just right in front of my face on a bright color. And then it's a really rewarding feeling to be able to pull those Post-it notes off. And then the last thing is just communicate with people around you. You know, this is one that I still am not the best at. I still struggle asking for help. If that's something that's uncomfortable for you, you don't even necessarily have to ask for help. Just let people know what you're working with, right? And maybe that means you say no to volunteering with the PTA for this quarter, right? Because you're focused on starting your business. Maybe, you know, for example, if you have a family member that is calling and texting all the time and you're getting distracted, maybe you just communicate with them and say, hey, I'm working on this thing and I'm really excited about it. And so I may not have the same capacity to respond as quickly as I did before. I just want to let you know, so you don't like take it personally or think I'm mad or anything like that. I'm just really focused on this thing and I'm really excited about it. And oftentimes, if you can help people around you understand the reason why you want to do this, it's a lot easier for them to kind of get on board and support you because they understand, oh, okay, she's doing this because she explained to me how she wants to help other people with this experience that she went through, or she wants to start an online business to change her family's future, whatever that looks like for you. If you can let them into your head a little bit, then it's a lot easier to have people understand why maybe you're not as involved as you would have been had you not been starting your online business. And then I know I already said the last thing, but I'm going to add one more bonus tip is, and it is difficult at the beginning. I mean, when I was first starting my business, I didn't have extra money to spend on like outsourcing and things like that. But as you start to bring in revenue for your business, the sooner you can start to bring in other people who are better in certain areas than you are, the faster you're going to grow and the more you're going to enjoy your business. So what I like to do, this is kind of like my simple rule of thumb, is I say, all right, what am I not good at? What do I not like doing? And who could I bring in that's better than me in that? And so I look at it in my head as, I reinvest a lot of money every single year back into my company because I've realized that if I try to do all the things now, again, at the beginning, there is a point where you do have to wear a lot of hats, even if you don't like it, because you can't afford to outsource. But I wish I would have started hiring a lot sooner, or even just finding somebody on Fiverr or looking on Upwork to take off tasks that might take you 3 or 4 hours to do, where you could pay somebody and they could get it done in an hour. And then the key is to make sure that those extra 3 hours that you're saving yourself by bringing somebody in, you're using that time very intentionally to focus on the things that you do enjoy and the things that only you can do inside your business. And so for me, inside my business, as we grew, that looked like hiring employees, hiring people who were better at tech than I was. I hired an attorney to help me with contracts. I made sure I hired a bookkeeper so I didn't have to do my own books, right? These are all things that at the beginning I was kind of bootstrapping and figuring it out. But as we grew and I could afford to bring other people in, it made me happier. It made me enjoy my business a lot more. The more you enjoy it, the more you're going to want to grow it, the faster you're going to see success. And we just got better and more efficient. You know, I should not be in charge of the tech side of the company. I am not techie. I should not be in charge of like planning and scheduling launches. I can hardly even manage my own Google Calendar. And so once I brought in people that were better at those kinds of things, were better at design, were better at emails and customer service, then it made me really like my business a lot better and it made us grow even faster. So I hope that was helpful. I just also want to remind you, I think a lot of times we think, oh, once I hit this certain level, I'm not going to feel stressed out anymore. It's not like I have some magic wand and I say, hey, once you hit this point, you're never going to feel stressed or overwhelmed in your business again. I'd be lying to you guys. And I don't lie here to you guys on this channel. But what I found is that things that used to overwhelm me don't overwhelm me anymore because I have given myself grace enough times. I have tried again enough times and I have just kept at it. And so I've gotten better by practice. And so things that used to overwhelm me here, I might be at this level now and I have new things that are overwhelming me, but I learned to work through the things that used to overwhelm me. It's kind of like this. Maybe this is a weird analogy, but those of you guys who have kids, right? I remember when my kids were little and I was in the thick of it and it was so hard. And then my kids got a little bit older and I was like, oh, I can finally sleep in my own bed again, or I'm not waking up multiple hours in the night. But then there was the next level of thing, right? Then we had to learn how to potty train. And then I had to manage, to get them ready for school in the morning and get them off to school. And now I'm dealing with preteens and attitudes and driving them to all their activities. It's not that one's necessarily harder or less hard. It's just different levels that you get to that you have to learn how to navigate. You have to learn tips and tools. And looking to other people who have successfully done it is one of the most helpful things you can do, because one, it helps you feel less alone. And two, you can learn from people who are a few steps further along than you are. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can, hopefully model what they're doing that's successful in your own style, in your own way. So, I remember when I was very first getting started online and I was overwhelmed all the time. I didn't let anybody know. Nobody on the outside knew I was feeling overwhelmed. I tried to act perfect all the time. And I'll let you know that system failed me. And I didn't know it at the time it was going to fail me, obviously, or I would have tried to change courses. But for me, recognizing overwhelm is normal. That's going to be part of the process. You're not the only one who's going through things that feel overwhelming. Communicating it, talking, showing yourself grace, giving yourself permission to say no to some of the other things in your life right now, so you can go all in and focus on starting your business. And then putting things in place that are going to help you enjoy the journey and really like what you're doing. Because if you don't like what you're doing, you're going to get burned out pretty quick. So I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any other tips that you do when you're feeling overwhelmed, go ahead and put those in the comments. I love reading them. I love engaging with you guys in the comments here. And I will see you in our next video.